Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. One day I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly, birds fly over the rainbow. Why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
Remarkable life of Martha Gamble Flint, or Marty, as we all knew and loved her. I'm so honored and grateful to be able to hold this space with all of you. I'm the senior minister here. My name is Eileen Wiviat, and this is a place that was important and special to Marty and Marty. It's one of the many places that they built community and friendships and love. I can feel the love in this room. We come together at times of grief and loss to process and express our sorrow, to help keep alive the memory of the ones who go before us, and to provide comfort to those who will miss her most. Her family, her daughters, Tacey and Megan, and son-in-law Graham, grandchildren Arik, Zinnia, Augie, and Hazel, and of course to comfort her beloved partner of 24 years, Marty Morrison. Without a doubt, everyone in this room loved Marty and will miss her so dearly. With our presence here in this space, and for those watching online, we provide solace of collective grief. We know that we're not alone in our loss. Facing Marty's death with honesty about who she was and joy for having known her is a balm for our souls. I consider myself one of the lucky ones, despite my husband and I being decidedly not lesbians. We were still invited to dinner at their place on more than one occasion. And it was always an honor and a delight to see Marty in her element, the most gracious and entertaining of hosts. Marty was also a loving mentor and grandmother to my child, Gray, for which I will always be so grateful. In this sacred time of memory and reflection on an incredible life well lived, we will undoubtedly feel sadness as we share the stories of how she touched our lives, knowing that our time with her is at an end. There's nothing that takes away that pain. but we'll also feel joy. The joy of many good memories that we shared with her. We'll laugh as we cry, and that is how Marty would have wanted it. Actually, she wanted a concert or a party to be her memorial, and we'll do our best to grant her that wish. But let us also give ourselves permission to be sad. She wouldn't want us to wallow in it, of course, but I believe that she'd want us to be honest with death, as the great UU minister A. Powell Davies said, to not pretend it is less than it is separation, sorrow, and grief. But let us not pretend that death is more than it is. It is not annihilation or the end of love or joy or laughter. It is important to grieve, to feel the tremendous space that this loss leaves in our hearts and in our lives. And we can also let joy weave in and out of our sadness, for this is how life and love play out. The moments of joy we experience through our loved ones are cherished because they are the bright, sparkling threads in contrast to the hard realities of life. Our lives are a tapestry of living and loving, knowing that to do so we must eventually lose what we love. Our practice with this tremendous life that we've been given is to love as fully and courageously as possible, knowing that it will end in grief. Today we honor Marty, who loved boldly and fully, who felt sorrow and anger, joy and delight in equal measure throughout her life. She was adventurous, a world traveler. She sucked all the marrow out of life, as Thoreau said. And oh, how she loved to entertain. She loved to delight guests with delicious foods and lively conversation. She was fiercely loyal and deeply alive. She was a devoted spouse and friend, a faithful companion, loving mother and grandmother. And she was so much more than we could possibly describe in the time that we have here today. But we're going to try. We'll hear from several of her beloveds who will share stories that offer a glimpse of the bright spark that Marty was, to fill in some of the fullness of her one remarkable and precious life. As we begin, I invite Megan, Augie, and Hazel with the rest of Marty's family to come forward to light the chalice flame. And I know you've had good practice. This is the symbol of our Unitarian Universalism and the community of faith where Marty built friendships and connections for many years. As the flame flickers and burns, may we know that the light of truth, the fire of compassion, the warmth of community endure. May we carry forward this flame in memory and honor of the bright spark of Marty's life and her loving memory, which will endure in our hearts always. I invite Arik, Marty's grandson, to come forward and read a poem that was important to her.
And here I have a poem by Claire Harner. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I'm a thousand winds that blows. I am the glint, or the diamond glint on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of birds circling in flight. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die.
John O'Donohue says, quote, "All through your life, the most precious experiences seem to vanish. Transience turns everything to air. You look behind and see no sign even of a yesterday that was so intense. Yet in truth, nothing ever disappears. Nothing is lost. Everything that happens to us in the world passes into us. It all becomes part of the inner temple of the soul, and it cannot be lost. This is the art of the soul, to harvest your deeper life from all the seasons of your experience. This is probably why the soul never surfaces fully. The intimacy and tenderness of its light would blind us. We continue in our days to wander between the shadowing and the brightening, while all the time a more subtle brightness sustains us. If we could but realize the sureness around us, we would be much more courageous in our lives. The frames of anxiety that keep us caged would dissolve. We would live the life we love, and in that way, day by day, free our future from the weight of regret." Unquote. It seems to me Marty Flint never regretted a thing. When I was around her, I never regretted anything either. She was a little dangerous. She was my atheist friend that I had nothing in common with except that we both loved being friends with each other. I sat up straighter, my ears and eyes opened a little wider, and I tried to show her the world from my eyes and see the world from hers. I believe that we somehow softened one another's experiences. Friendships that become chosen family, I believe, requires living our full, whole selves without regrets. The other night, when I asked Morrison if I could hold Flint's ashes, the heaviness and my immediate sorrow was a burden that I gladly bore. It's a testament for my love for Flint. Marty was my only friend who both reminded me how much she loved my late wife. That was Paula who sang at the very start. And Flint also tapped her watch to hurry me along to get a new girlfriend, which I did. And Tanya, who was so glad to have met Marty Flint, she gifted Marty with a jazzy red cloak to match her brand new car and also to keep her stylishly warm, which Flint immediately loved. There's a photo I took of Flint and Paula staring into Paris while leaning on the North Bridge outside of Notre Dame. It's in the slideshow. It shows the years of their deep and easy friendship. Our friendship with the Martys began about 15 years ago when they were looking for the lesbians as they were UU shopping. My beloved Paula, who rarely came to church, and Flint, who never missed a Sunday, became such dear friends that Flint always misremembered and always said that Paula introduced Flint to me. Whatever. Over a year later, we took the Martys to hear women's music in Chicago. Then they realized that Paula was beloved by goo-gobs of women who loved her for her music, her singing. The Martys didn't even know she sang. I believe Paula loved that freedom to form deep friendships because of who she was, not how well she performed. Flint and Morrison would tell the story and be amazed at how they were friends with the talented and amazing Paula Wolowitz. That photo of Paula and Flint looking away in Paris, it always shows to me Paula living out Paula's deep desire to see Paris before she died, but she was only able to do that because Flint was kind enough to let us tag along, and so was Morrison. I'll end with how I became Flint's wannabe sous chef. Years ago, in her kitchen outside of Pratt Beach, when Flint heard that as a high school student I was a short order cook, Flint got it in her head that she should train me in the culinary arts. Her pan wasn't hot enough. That fried egg, it wasn't cooked enough, and I knew I couldn't do it. But Flint insisted right now, in the air, flip it. Flip that egg and catch it. At first, I argued. That gave that egg 20 more seconds. And then I realized that Flint was teaching me something altogether different other than flipping an egg. She was teaching me how to be fearless. When my egg flipped in the air, she squealed with delight. Then she howled with laughter when it made a glorious mess on her stove. I passed that test of Flint's. You all try it. Dare to make messes without regrets. Dare to love your friends as fully as you are able, all the way through all of the hard times, all without regrets. And remind Morrison how much she is loved by her forever other Marty.
Dare to make a mess without regrets. What a wonderful way to remember Marty Flint. Oh, it is so good to be here with you in Evanston. Some of you may or may not know that your minister, Reverend Eileen, is one of my dearest friends. We attended seminary together in Chicago, and so this feels like a homecoming for me, and so good to be with you. And it also speaks to how small the UU world is in a way. Marty Flint. I can't really talk about Marty Flint without first talking about Marty Morrison because I met her first. And it's interesting that, they have the same first name. And I could always tell which Marty we were talking about through the inflection. But some of you may or may not know that I believe early in their time together, Marty Flint tried to see if Marty Morrison would change her name and go by Martha. I think that is the one and only time that Marty refused Marty Flint anything. She wanted to move, she wanted to buy a new car, she wanted to come, always yes, but not that. So I first met Marty Morrison back in the 1990s in Northborough. She had moved to the area, And so just remember the 1990s. This was before Ellen came out. This was a time when to be part of the LGBTQ community was still a little bit something that we would keep quiet. And Marty had come to our Unitarian Universalist church in Northborough, Massachusetts, where I lived with my wife, and well, before she was my wife, with my partner then. And we joined this gay-straight alliance, which is what people did when they wanted to be able to have a little bit of cover. So you don't know if I'm one of the gay or the straight part of the alliance if I'm attending. So Marty showed up and introduced herself, and she said, "Nobody knows I'm gay." I love to remind her of that. So we said, "Oh, okay, well," I think by that she meant that she wasn't out. And so we got to be good friends with Marty Morrison. She was newly single after having been in a long-term relationship, and she had some really disastrous dating experiences. So much so that I sat her down one day very seriously and said, "Marty, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to be consulted about your next girlfriend. We just can't." I mean, she moved in with, it was awful. And I thought she would know that I was kidding, but one day she brought Marty Flint to church. And Marty Flint came over to me and she said, "I understand that I'm to meet with your approval." I was a little bit scared, if I'm honest. A little bit scared, but she, of course, met with our approval immediately. And you saw it in the pictures. What a happy couple for all those years. And we were part of a group of 7 couples who got married all at the same time on May 29th, 2004, when it became legal in Massachusetts. So we share an anniversary with them. And over the years, we had many beautiful meals in Massachusetts at the home of the Martys, at multiple homes of the Martys. Everything just so. I remember Dale once volunteered to help set the table, and she got a lesson in how to set a table. And then they decided to move to Chicago to help raise their beloved grandchildren. And we were, of course, sad to see them go. But then a few years later, it turned out I was called to the ministry and was going to be attending seminary out here in Chicago. And so we reconnected with the Martys, and they welcomed me into their home many times when I was here for classes. And one of the trips coincided with my birthday. And so Marty Flint said, "Well, we'll have a few friends over." She planned this beautiful dinner party with people that she thought I would get along with. And she had printed menus and the table set just perfectly. She was exacting, but always in service of beauty and community. She loved who she loved without apology. And when they moved out here, they did some church shopping, and I assumed, because they were living in Chicago, I assumed that they would want to go to one of the big churches downtown. And Marty Flint said, "No, we chose a church in Evanston." And I said, "What about lots of lesbians?" Which, that was important to her. But she loved fully, and she gave the best of herself to the people she loved. And I will remember her with great love and appreciation. And Marty Morrison, we are going to be looking out for you on her behalf, as she would let me know about it. I love you, Marty. Thank you for being here, and thank you for welcoming me into your life.
Dear family and friends of Marty, for those who do not know me, I'm Philip Gibbs, originally from Belgium. I was the first exchange student that the Flint family took in. I met Marty the first time on August 17th, 1978 at Logan Airport in Boston, where she came to pick me up for my exchange adventure. I then met Oren about an hour later. When she heard I was from Belgium, she said the only Belgian she knew was Hercule Poirot. But she soon became convinced Belgians were great. There was no prejudices against us, and as it turned out, the Flint family then took in several more after I left. There was Geneviève, Françoise, Miriam, and there were a few other nationalities now and then as well. I had a great year, so great I kept coming back for quite a while, and had the opportunity to be part of the family, being there for several Thanksgivings and Christmases, meeting Marty's aunts Ruth and Jean, and Marty's dad Bob. It was a loving and fun environment. Just in January this year, I was texting to Marty some of the things she taught me. I'll mention here and there, and one of them, the second day I was there, she taught me and Bjorn. He was a Swedish exchange student staying with friends. She taught us how to play blackjack. Later that same day, we were introduced to craps. Megan was at summer camp when I arrived there, so some days later we went to pick her up. I was very much impressed because she was 11 years old and she was singing "Here Comes the Sun," I think, yeah, for quite a huge audience. Wow, great. I had, of course, already met Tacy by then, who was still very, very young and very adorable. Yeah. What else did Marty teach me that I wrote her about? It's a long list, and I'm most likely forgetting many things. One of them was I was very bad at taking pills. She would then show off and put several in her mouth and swallow them out. One gulp of water to encourage me in her own way, of course, by showing it was not hard. When I succeeded, she would say something complimentary and say, "It would have killed the average man." Yeah. She taught me the importance of taking vitamins, but as I said, it was difficult for me. Nowadays, I've gotten a lot better, though the big hard ones are still a bit of an issue. At one point, we were in a restaurant in Boston, and raw oysters were ordered. Both Tacy and I had never had any, and we were told to try one. We didn't really want to, but one got cut in two, and we ate it with a lot of sauce on top. And we survived, and I like them a lot. She was a competent woman and encouraged me to be more competent as well. She would tell me to get over whatever it was I was having trouble with, look around and see that most everyone could do what I was having issues with, and deal with it. Her approach worked. I was a kid when I arrived in '78, but when I left, I had definitely gathered more self-confidence and some new skills. She also taught me to change tire on a car. She gave me the first driving lesson, learned to eat popcorn. I learned to shower and wash my hair every day. I grew up. She introduced me to many writers. She loved reading, and I do too, Agatha Christie being our first point in common for sure. I did some casual labor in the Victorian and earned some money. Also a new experience for me, learning to stand on my own 2 feet a bit, meeting lots of new people. She managed them all and had a great time doing it. She was a competent woman doing great things. In 2023, my wife and I came by to visit her, and we drove down to Whitensville to meet some dear friends from back then. We had a bit of a reunion with a lot of the waitresses at Beth Morse's house. Luckily, Megan was there as well, and she had the great idea to call Marty and have everyone talk to her a little bit. They were all very happy to talk to her, and one of the messages I heard a lot was they said, "Yeah, you changed our lives," and it was a very loving reunion. I was very happy that we could get that done. I recently was chatting with a few of the waitresses. One of them said it was a bit like we were a big family, and that's correct. It definitely felt like that. It was a great time. She also loved to travel. We went to the West Coast that first year and later years as well. Went to London and France, her old love, of course, and she still loved traveling in her later years. We met up with her in Paris some years ago, and also even longer ago, Marty, we were in Paris. So yeah, that was one of her favorite destinations. I could speak French to her always. She spoke it very well, maybe not as well as Stacy, but still very good. I texted her in French a while back and got a prompt reply back in perfect French. She also spoke some Spanish from her California days, so Tacy was often referred to as La Pequeña. Well, and there were other phrases that got used now and then. She was a proud mother and later a proud grandmother, loved food and cooking and organizing events or parties. There was never a dull moment with her, and we all loved and felt loved in return. She came to my wedding to Kaisa in 2004. We then came to visit in 2005 for Tacy's wedding. And as said, we met now and then in Paris, in London, in Belgium. We kept a long-running chat up via text messaging for many years, which was always great fun. I wish I could print it out somehow, so if someone knows a tip, let me know. I've known her almost 70% of my life. It will be very hard to live without her. I miss her, as we all do. Thank you.
Got my laptop. I'm a lawyer. Anyone doesn't know. Philip and I were talking earlier about how hard it is to think of which things to talk about here. There are so many. One word that kept coming to my mind as I was thinking about my mom. And I've been thinking about this not just since she died a few weeks ago, but she's been declining for a while. We knew this was coming. One word that I kept thinking about is the word unabashed. As people have said, my mom did not hold back on her views about table setting. She did not conceal her beliefs based on a concern that someone would not approve. Everyone knew she was an atheist. You couldn't say bless you around her without hearing about that. She was a fierce proponent of gender equality. My mom absolutely chafed against unequal treatment on the basis of gender. She could not abide mansplaining. That term is recent, but the practice is not recent. I was witness to a decent number of mansplainers who heard about that from her. She was deeply devoted to marriage equality. She protested. She, as Justine mentioned, organized the 14 Brides once marriage equality came to Massachusetts before other states. She was a huge proponent of marijuana legalization. She was not secretive about her use of pot for many years when it was illegal, both federally and in every state she lived in. She wasn't shy or secretive about her own ambitions. She was very ambitious. She built 2 businesses. Philip talked about the Victorian. She started that from a rundown old house, turned it into a B&B and restaurant. She started another business in Worcester called Tommy Guns. It was a crappy old place called the Copper Pan, I think. And she turned it into an amazing place where she, Megan, maybe not you, Philip, but all of us got up at the microphone one time or another, or many times. She was ambitious for me and Megan also. When I graduated from college, she really wanted me to get a class ring She wanted me to wear it when I met Hillary Clinton. This is 1999, so it was before Hillary Clinton's presidential run. I didn't get the class ring, but I did get this blazer at my 25th reunion. My mom loved orange. Probably a lot of you already know that. She loved this particular blazer. I sent a photo of me and Graham and two of our kids at reunions this past year that she loved, and so here I am wearing it today. Didn't get the class ring, but I did get this blazer and wearing it today. And then another thing I'm wearing today is a gift from my mom, which is a necklace that has a charm that looks like Justice Ginsburg's famous jabot, one of her famous jabots. I did get to meet Justice Ginsburg, and my mother loved hearing about that. I'm sorry that she didn't get to see our first female president, but I'm confident that's coming soon. Another just undeniable characteristic of my mother was her bravery. I think maybe it was Justine used the word fearless, maybe it was Jean. That's really true. She was so brave and so open to new experiences. She was not open to hearing about, your religion or whatever, but she was open to traveling. Philip talked about her love for Paris. She moved there in her early 20s on her own. She went over there just by herself. She talked a lot about eating sardines and crackers as she lived over there in her early 20s. She loved Europe. She thought people should travel to Europe. The first time I went there was when I was 8. We went there to visit my sister, who was living in London at the time. And every time we went to Europe when I was a kid, it wasn't just, me and my mom and my dad or my sister, but also a whole group. Employees from the Victorian or Tommy Gunn's, friends of my mother's from anywhere around the world. Philip and our other exchange students would come visit us. My mom really wanted to help people see the world because she felt like she had benefited so much from seeing it. Jean, you mentioned you and Paula going to Europe with my mom, and Marty too. She traveled in packs. She just brought friends everywhere she went. Another fearless moment my mom had, I mentioned in the obituary that she loved French cooking. She was taken by Julia Child's The Art of French Cooking that I think spurred her to open the Victorian. So one day when she was living in Massachusetts there, she was struggling with a recipe. She pulled out her, Massachusetts phone book and called Julia Child, who had a listed number in Cambridge. And I guess that worked out. It sounded like it was a great experience. My mom was on a committee in Worcester, Massachusetts, called the Status of Women. Over a lot of objections and great controversy, she brought Angela Davis to come speak to the status of women, even though many people opposed it. My mom loved sushi before anyone else did. We used to drive into Boston to eat sushi back when it didn't exist in Worcester. And then once it did exist in Worcester, we went all the time. That was my mom. My mom was really smart also. She was incredibly perceptive. She said she was known among her family as a child. She was known as the nose because she always knew what was going on with everybody else. And I think one way that my mom's brilliance manifested is she had this incredible ability to use mind over matter. Philip, you described her saying, just do it. She could really manifest things with her I'm just going to do this thing. I'm just going to make this happen. Sometimes it was kind of funny. In recent years, a couple months ago, my daughter Hazel was doing gymnastics in our kitchen, and my mom said, "Oh, I could do a back bend." I think she might have gotten up and done it. She really believed those things. Another thing that my mom was just, brilliant at is marriages. So my parents got married in 1962. I'm sure there are a number of people here who don't know my dad. He's a wonderful person. He's very smart, very charming. He's one of the kindest people you'll ever meet. And, times were different in 1962. I don't know how many prospective husbands would have wanted to marry someone like my mom, someone so fierce and fearless and ambitious. My mom told me a story that her mother told her, your priorities in order, this is many decades ago, your priorities in order are 1, husband, 2, children, 3, home, 4, self. And I'm sure you can guess what my mom thought of that list of priorities. But I admire my dad very much for, in 1962, wanting to be in a partnership of equals before that was more normal, as it is now. I admire my mom so much for her courage and integrity, for finding a partner like my dad that would, create a marriage that fit her instead of trying to fit herself into a traditional model. And then in her 60s, my mom met Marty Morrison. And I think a lot of people here do know Marty and love her. They were just the most joyful couple. They loved entertaining, as you've already heard. They had a million friends, as you all know and are testament to. They both drew people to them with their warmth and have drawn all of us here together today. Right after our oldest daughter, Zinnia, was born, Marty was retiring from Nichols. Nichols College, the two of them moved out here to start taking care of Zinnia every day. And this was another example, I think, of my mom's wisdom and brilliance finding a partner as wonderful as Marty, a partner who is such a gift to our family. I mean, thanks to the two of you getting together, we've lost my mom, but our kids have another grandparent in you. We're so happy to have you here. My mom loved celebrations. She loved Christmases and birthdays. She loved her own birthday. She loved all of our birthdays. It was a great story about your birthday, Justine. It sounds so much like her. She loved giving presents. Every trip she went on, she would buy a million things and just give, little, sometimes weird things to people as gifts. She loved having piles of presents. She would have loved to be here with all of you, all of us today. She would have loved to see this. And we'll really, really miss her.
What is it about Marty Flint? You knew if she was around, it was guaranteed that you were going to have fun. There's no question about it. She could be loud, outrageous, opinionated. She smoked, she drank, and just so you know, all those things I don't do. So what was it that I loved about her? It was that she was outrageous, she smoked, she drank, and she was fun. I cooked. In my previous relationships, I was the chief cook, but I cooked simple things. Scrambled eggs, not hollandaise. She did sauces, gourmet food. She was brilliant. I was average, and I'm not putting myself down. I don't want to see any of this, oh no. Okay, she was brilliant. I was average. She read lots of books. I read a few. I was a rule follower, and I still am. She tried to break every rule that was ever written. So what was it about Marty Flint? What was it? She was fun. She could be a little prickly. Just a little. I don't know how many of you have lived someplace that there is the paddle cactus that has the prickly pear on it. Well, if you go and you take the prickly pear off, you have to have thick gloves because you'll get stuck. It's very similar to things that Marty could do to you, okay? But you fight past the needles and the thorns. You peel it, and inside is this really delicious fruit that tastes like a pear. And I have to say, Marty was the same way. Yes, she was outrageous, she did things, she was opinionated, but once you got to the core, she just loved you and would help you in any way that she could. As I stand here and I look out to everyone that's here today, I am reminded of so many stories. Some of them have already been said, so I'll try to edit as I go, but there's no promises here. I'll do the best that I can. Okay, this is and all these, I swear, these are all true stories. If they're not, the family can tell me that I was told a lie, okay? A trip to Paris. Tacy is about 8 to 10, okay? Orrin and Marty go to get on the bus. They were at the bottom of Sacré-Cœur, which is a beautiful church on top of a hill. And the bus driver says to them, "Didn't you have a child with you?" They turned, they look up to the top of Sacré-Cœur, and there is Tacy running back and forth at the top of the mountain looking for them. You know, who forgets their child in Paris? I'm not answering that. A few years later, in Worcester, Massachusetts, Arik, who is this tall guy that was up here talking before, he's only a child. Marty and Arik decide that it would be a great idea to lock him in the trunk of a car. So they did. Marty was looking after Arik because Megan had something to do. But they locked Arik in the trunk, and then they picked up Megan, and Marty tried to act like she left Arik at the store or something. She didn't know where he was. And, you know, they were doing this to get a reaction, but unfortunately, Arik was at the age where he just could not control his giggles. And he just started to giggle and giggle from the trunk of the car. And of course, Megan heard it, but she was wise enough to play along with it. So Marty and Megan argued a little, or, pretended that poor Arik was back there getting carbon monoxide poisoning. But, they had fun. I mean, they just had fun. Here in Chicago, we find a smooth stone. Be aware, Zinnia, this is you. We find this smooth oval stone. It fits in the palm of my hand. It's fairly large. We dig it out of the dirt, okay? I grab it out of Marty's hands because I could see where it was going. She was just going to brush the dirt off, have Zinnia lick it, put salt on it, and make it a salt lick. I ran in and washed the stone, and then Zinnia licked it, put the salt on it, and she was trying to teach Zinnia new flavors. It became a salt lick. A matter of fact, I think on the slideshow, or did it make it, or on the slideshow, there is a picture of Zinnia with this silly rock in her hand, ready to lick that salt right off the rock. Hazel and Augie. You thought you guys were getting away free. You're not. She would give them her scooter, and they would drive around Loyola Park over sidewalks, grass. Thank goodness they never went into the sand, because the tires would have just spun. But she just let them do it. I would be sitting there trying to watch every place that they went, and she would just be sitting there going, they're just having a good time. Part of this next story you've heard, Philip and Kaisa are in Paris. Marty and Philip are a block and a half ahead of us. Kaisa and I are following. We knew where they were because Philip was very controlled here, but he sometimes talks a lot with his hands. And Kaisa and I could see that, so we knew where they were. And Kaisa turns to me and says, he is not like this at home. He is so much more fun when he is with Marty. Oh, there's the theme again. This one, Justine, you're getting nailed now. On the second or third date, we attended a concert that Justine was giving at First Parish Unitarian Church of Evanston. Very small church, 120 members, maybe 60 people there on a Sunday morning, not as big as this church is. And we were always trying to raise money. So she was doing, a concert to help raise money. And we were sitting there as a date. And there was also, as you heard, a lesbian posse at First Parish. It seems like they get created wherever she goes. And I had promised, which this is part of the story, Justine, that I was not allowed to make any type of decision unless I got approval from the rest of the lesbians, because for those that are not gay, you might not understand this, but for the people that are here that are gay, I was doing my 20 thing when I was in my 50s. Because I didn't do my 20 thing when I was at 20. I was doing it in my 50s, and I had made some poor decisions on dating. That is very true. So we're at this concert, and I see Justine is singing up on the stage, and there's two of the lesbian posse back by the back door. Their names were Bev and Denise. And I got up during the concert, and I walked back, and I said, "What do you think of her? Do you like her?" This is only the second date. I don't know what I was thinking, but do you like her? And they looked at me and they said, "We only have one question. Is it love or lust?" And I looked at them and I said, "I'm not sure. I think that's a really good question." So of course I go back and sit down. in the family will understand this next. Of course, Marty had to know what I said to those two good-looking women. So Justine is singing. Marty says, "What did they say?" I said, "They asked whether it was love or lust." And she said, "What?" So I said a little louder, "They said, was it love or lust?" She said, "What?" You're getting, you know where this is going. So I took a deep breath and I opened my mouth. At that second, the music stopped. And I said, "They asked if it was love or lust." The person in front, who was Nancy Goodhue, head snapped around, looked at me, and I just went, "What can I say?" You know, it's the way it is. Why? Because you always have fun when you're with Marty Flint. I have to put these. I'm so good at this that I went ahead of my thing. Our very last trip was to Bowling Green, Kentucky, for a family wedding. Those two people have made the trip from Asheville up here and are sitting here. This was just a few months ago. And several people, it was right after the Asheville floods, the hurricane that went through. So the venue that they were getting married at was washed out, totally gone. And in 1 week time, was it 1 or 2 weeks? Wait, say that, 1, okay. I have my reading glasses. In 1 week's time, they put the whole wedding together in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So we went down to Bowling Green, and the reason is that Matt and Casey wanted Marty, I'm the relative, I'm the blood relative, they wanted Marty Flint at their wedding. So they would not cancel the wedding. They wanted to make sure that she was there. And we went, and Hazel went with Tacy, Marty and I, and Marty was taking Hazel around on the scooter, which everyone loves to ride the scooter. And she was driving all over the venue, and she was introducing Hazel as her daughter. Not as her granddaughter, as her daughter. Yes, her memory was failing, there's no question about it. But you still know that even though it was failing, you were going to have fun if she was around. So, having said all those different stories, I would like to now, in appreciation of all of her consuming hospitality that she has had her whole life, and with her chef and restaurant experience, we want to share some sweetbread with all of you gathered here. We did this at our wedding, and it was something that Marty and I both talked to the minister about, sitting around the kitchen table and the time that we enjoyed being with family and talking after dinner. So, having said that, the lesbian posse, we love that lesbian posse, came here this morning and cooked monkey bread. And so it's freshly made this morning. They are going back, they're getting the bread, they're going to pass it through the aisles. Please take one. If you're gluten-free, I'm really sorry. Don't do it. But let's say it as an honor to Marty for all of those hundreds, if not thousands, of wonderful meals that she made for people and shared with people over her very long and wonderful life. I would like to just say, you know, I loved her very much, and she loved me. But she also loved all the people that are here today. She just had an unboundless supply of joy and happiness and love. Thank you so much.
I can be a mountain when you're feeling valley low. I can be a street light showing you the way home. But you can hold my hand when you need to let go. You can hold my hand when you need to let go. I can be a mountain when you're feeling valley low. I can be a street light showing you the way home. So you can hold my hand when you need to let go. Want a house with a crowded table and a place by the fire for everyone. Let us take on the world while we're young and able, and bring this back together when the day is done. If we want to guard it, we're gonna have to sow the seed. Plant a little happiness, let the roots run deep. If it's love that we give, then it's love that we reap. If we want to guard it, we're gonna have to sow the seed. Yeah, I want a house with a crowded table and a place by the fire for everyone. Let us take on the world while we're young and able, and bring us back together when the day is done. The door is always open, your picture's on my wall. Everyone's a little broken, and everyone belongs. Yeah, everyone belongs. I want a house with a crowded table and a place by the fire for everyone. Let us take on the world while we're young and able, and bring us back together when the day is done. And bring us back together when the day is done.
What a joy, what a wonderful celebration of Marty Flint's life. She will be forever missed. Together, may we hold our memories of her close to our hearts, to carry them with us well beyond this too brief time into our living and our loving. As we gather in community, as we laugh, as we enjoy meals together, as we sing and dance, as we question and explore, as we live loud and proud who we are. As we build relationships of trust and curiosity, let us remember Marty's vibrant spirit. May we continue to love even through the pain of loss. May we love with abandon, with courage and conviction, with a willingness to be transformed and to grow. May we live fully our values and remember to tell each other each day that we love one another, to say I'm sorry when we cause hurt, and to be present in this, the only moment we have. And let us continue to dance together in the great dance of life with joy and woe, celebration and sorrow. You're invited to join in singing the hymn, which the words will be on the screen, Let It Be a Dance, which was a particular favorite of Marty and Marty's. And feel free to get up and dance if you feel moved to do so, or sing along. Thank you.
And round we go again.
As the chalice flame is extinguished, calling Marty's grandchildren, I'll read this poem by May Sarton. And as you listen, let us remember to hold the flame of love and connection to Marty and to each other in our hearts. May we tend to it and nurture these loving memories always, and may we all know peace. Now, Voyager, lay here your dazzled head. Come back to earth from air, be nourished, not with that light on light, but with this bread. Here, close to earth, be cherished, mortal heart. Hold your way deep as roots push rocks apart to bring the spurt of green up from the dark. Where music thundered, let the mind be still. Where the will triumphed, let there be no will. What light revealed, now let the dark fulfill. Here, close to earth, the deeper pulse is stirred. Here, where no wings rush and no sudden bird, but only heartbeat upon beat is heard. Here, let the fiery burden be all spilled, the passionate voice at last be calmed and stilled, and the long yearning of the blood fulfilled. Now, Voyager, come home to rest, here on the long-lost country of Earth's breast. Lay down the fiery vision and be blessed. Be blessed. As our service concludes, please know that you all have stories, I am positive, in this room of Marty Flint. Share those with each other as we enjoy a wonderful celebration brought by our memorial team and so many here that contributed. May we go in peace and joy and laughter and celebration of a life well lived. Amen.